Hello, hello. Thanks for tuning in today's webinar. We're just going to give a few minutes for people to join so that we can make sure that everybody gets the information that we're sharing today. My name is Brian Fontenot. Pleasure to meet you. It'd be nice to know just, what states some people are from. So if you don't mind putting in the chat, just putting in your state and locations. Okay, got a couple people chiming in. Got some people from Texas, got Georgia. I see Arkansas. Okay. Okay, Arizona, California, New York. All right, we got people from different places all across the nation. Well, welcome. Pleasure to meet you, and thank you for tuning in to the eye level to high level program overview. I'm going to be the person that's going to guide you through this conversation today and help you to understand what the eye level to high level program even entails. How does it be able to help business owners? Some case studies, even a couple of questions and answers are going to be answered. So throughout this presentation, all I ask is that you have an open mind and that you listen to the information clearly. There's going to be instructions on how to make sure to get all of your questions answered, because I'm sure unfortunately will not be able to answer everything during this presentation, but I'm going to do my best to answer everything to give you a great understanding that you walk away from. So with that being said, any questions, I ask that you hold until a specific time at the end, but just kind of listening to the presentation, I am going to ask some polls and other pieces of information to just kind of gauge where people's different understanding and information is, and then we'll go from there. And so with that, let's go ahead and begin. All right. So before we even get into the actual presentation itself, I want to introduce you to the team and help you to know who are the individuals that are going to be working on your behalf and are part of your advisory team, guiding you through the step process. And so first, we're going to start with our fearless leader. His name is Jimmy Rios. Jimmy is 49 years young, from Queens, New York. He's graduated from Clinton High School and ASU, and he lives in Maricopa, Arizona, with his wife, Sylvia, and 3 kids. Now, he has 25 plus years in the financial services sector. He's been a licensed realtor, a life insurance agent, and a mortgage loan officer. And he's got 23 plus years in business and mortgage underwriting experience. Now, one of the things that Jimmy decided to do was taking all this collective knowledge and information that he received from helping people be able to get approved for home loans, commercial loans, all kinds of different loans, and using that experience as he wanted to decode the mystery of how you use credit. And so he wrote a book that I'm going to hold up that you'll see here in the corner called Decoding the Mystery of Business Credit. And it's a book that's only about 121 pages long, but it allows you to be able to help to understand exactly how do you maneuver through business credit and use it to your effective advantage in business. Now, he's probably going to come up with a new version this year, so you not only need to get this book, but get the next one as well too. But he's also the owner of Rios Financial Group, riosbusinessfunding.com, and Next Level Credit LLC. And so the next individual I'm going to introduce is Chris Vail. He is a distinguished professional and visionary entrepreneur and strategic investor who's got over 28 plus years in dynamic leadership across financial services, business operations, and marketing strategy. Now, he's a results-driven individual who's been able to produce for different organizations all kinds of different results, going back to working with a company called Direct Buy, in which he was brought in to transform this company, generating a $12 million increase in revenue while achieving 300% increase in sales. He was able to secure partnerships with prestigious institutions such as NCAA, AAU, and Under Armour. He's also been successful in implementing real estate strategies with his involvement starting with the beginning of finding the property all the way to the sale and profits from wholesales, fix and flips, or rental projects. He's even worked with different financial programs to help instill programs that have generated anywhere from 18 to 50% dividends across multiple lending verticals across all the stakeholders that he's worked with. So when it comes to results and driven success, he has a strong marketing, sales, and business acumen that is going to be hard pressed to find. And then the last person that we have is myself, accomplished entrepreneur, philanthropist, investor, and public speaker. I've had the privilege of working with anywhere from small, medium businesses to Fortune 1000s to Fortune 100 companies, and helping companies enhance financial operations and engineering, technology solutions, digital advertising, marketing campaigns, operational execution. Some of the companies that I've had the pleasure of working with and helping to provide transformations that have developed anywhere from tens of millions to hundreds of millions of additional revenue include Tory Burch, Lenovo, 3M, IBM, Kiss Cosmetics, Nothing But Cake, Harbor Freight Tools, and many other companies to name. And when I'm not focused on consulting and helping business owners, I focus on being able to support back in my community. I speak at different conferences that you'll be able to find me at. I also have a growing real estate portfolio in Houston, Texas. And I've also run a nonprofit in which I give back to first generation college students through scholarships and mentorship. And so with the combined of all of these individuals, we make up a advisory team along with other partners that we have in our business that helps to be able to guide you. Now, I want to give you an overview of this program so that you have an understanding exactly what is the high level program. And so we designed it with a specific goal in mind. There's two things that business owners really need. The first is they need access to cash, but the second is credit. Now, getting access to that for some people isn't hard. That's not exactly the challenge. The challenge is, how do you do it without taking on the burdens of debt? That's the thing that everybody wants. Give me the cash without giving me the debt that's tied to it. And so there's two things that we accomplish when you follow the roadmap of the high level program. The first one is we got to get you business credit lines or loans. Now, I'm going to ask this question to the chat and go feel free to respond. Do y'all like being on a roller coaster? Okay, I see a couple of yeses. I see a couple of no's. I'm the one person that's the no's. But I can tell you one roller coaster that people don't really like being on. And it's the roller coaster of finances, where you feel things are going great. You feel like you're printing money. You could be the U.S. Treasury yourself. And then you have the times where things are not great, and ramen noodles for 30 days isn't a bad diet. And so we want to keep you off the roller coaster of business in business finances by stabilizing your business and keeping things moving at a smooth rate. Now, to do that, we're going to use business credit, the lines that we'll establish for you in this process to do so. But that is half of the battle. I'm going to ask my first poll here, so feel free to answer the questions. Have you ever heard the term non-recourse? And I'm just going to give you all a couple seconds to respond. Feel free to vote yay or nay. All right, let me go ahead and display the results. And most people haven't. Okay, great. So when it comes to non-recourse, the term non-recourse is a term that means that no later date will there be any kind of asset or value taken to fulfill some type of obligation. And so in the context of what we're going to talk about, when you think of recourse, you get a car loan. If you don't pay on that car loan, they do something we call repossession. Repossession would be the form of recourse. And so when it comes to non-recourse, that's what you want. You want no repayment or collection at a later date, because then you can use those funds and deploy it in the business in a way that makes sense. And so that's the ultimate end goal that we're achieving for you through this process. Now, this is a flexible roadmap. We've done it for people to help them get $100,000 for, investing in their business. Maybe it be buying new trucks for buying a box truck, or buying things for a trucking industry. Or maybe $1 million we've done for clients to help them invest in real estate, or tens of millions to help them invest in new retail store locations. We've been able to help business owners at varying ends of the spectrum, even at $200 million. It's flexible because we customize the steps based upon what's ideal for each client. So there's actually an intrinsic benefit that we're going to help every business owner. And so I got another question for the poll. How many of y'all have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? And I'm going to give y'all a second to be able to respond. Okay, got some responses in. Let me go ahead and show the results. Okay. Wow. Actually, a lot of y'all haven't. So that's one of my favorite books. So there's a great book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it helps to change your mindset and relationship and how you work with money. Now, there's four main primary ways that money is being made, and we have what's called the cash flow quadrant, which is something from this book that we're going to steal and use for the context of this program. Now, I'm going to show you the cash flow quadrant, and I'm going to start with a couple of different pieces. Most people that we meet with are somewhere on this side, and this side is what we call from the E and S, right? And so the E and S is employee and self-employed. Now, you can be employed at a job where you make a salary, you pay your bills, and etc. Or you can be self-employed where you own the job. And what that own the job really means is that you end up being in a position where you are the one who is responsible. So the difference would be being a paralegal, unless you work for a lawyer and your hours and pay is determined by the lawyer's caseload, or you actually being the lawyer yourself, and then you make a lot more money, but you still have to work. Because what you'll notice is that regardless of the two, both of them exchange time for money. So what happens is, if you get to a certain point in debt, exchanging time for money isn't going to change anything for you, which means that if you don't work, keep and maintain those hours of work, you won't ever be able to pay off the debt, but you'll get yourself into points of bankruptcy. This is where most business owners find themselves. And so our system and our goal is really to help you transition to this right-hand side. You see, when you become a business owner and investor, that's the playbook that's used at the higher levels. And that's what we want to implement for you during this process. Now, when it comes to being a business owner, correct? Many people understand this concept. For a business owner, for instance, that's like being the Facebook. You have employees, you have a system working for you. And what happens is you don't exchange time for money. You as the owner, regardless if you wake up and decide to work today, it doesn't make a difference because money still has potential to come in. Now, nowadays, these people that you see here in this icon are being replaced by AI. So now you got systems working for you. But through this process and going through our roadmap, we're developing a system that helps bring to you capital that you can be able to use effectively. But the other part of this spectrum oftentimes gets forgotten. It's called being an investor. Now, most people don't know this. Amazon has $88 billion of cash on hand. Now, the cash isn't all cash. It's cash equivalents. So what happens is they put their money to work for them. So if you have money that sits in a bank account, your money is not working for you. And you have essentially what we call unemployed money. The goal of money says should be bringing out more money for you. So Amazon has their $88 billion in like bonds, treasury bonds, government bonds, federal bonds, you name it, other kinds of stock, and they're investing in it. Even they've had proposals to put money in Bitcoin reserves, just like the U.S. government is considering doing. And so what ends up happening is that money is working for you. But for small and medium businesses, this part of the playbook is often forgotten. So by following our roadmap, we give you a system to transition you from this left side to switching you over to this right side. And that's where you're going to find ultimate success within your business, be able to take the vacations and time and all the other things that are necessary for you. And so now I want to get into giving you the example of our roadmap that we're going to follow. And so I want to show you an example of how you can get access to up to $1 million in business credit. You can receive up to $1 million in non-recourse cash. We're going to do this across 6 to 7 months across 4 phases. And while we do this, your business is going to be structured for greater financial opportunities. Your business plans will be able to be not just plans, but actual things that happen. We have reductions in debts, taxes, and liabilities, and using Rios networks of partners. And you'll be able to continue growing your business and repeating the previous steps by utilizing more resources to be able to help you. So we got what we consider your partners in progress and process. That's Rios Business Advisors, lenders A, B, and C, and RBA's network of partners. And so with that, let's go on to the next step. So what you're seeing here is our roadmap. So what you'll notice down here is the 7-month timeline. And this is what was typical for most clients. And what you'll see is that there's 4 main things that are going to happen. We got our initial funding. We have the non-recourse cash return program. We have the Age Shelf Corporation funding program. And we even have repeats of all those places. And then finally, we're going to deploy those assets. And what you can see here is the timeline in which certain things are going to run. So the first thing that we're going to focus on, we're going to black out all of that. We're going to focus right here on the initial funding and talk about this very first step. So we work with clients that sometimes have access to cash or capital. And then we have other times where we have clients who don't. And so if you found yourself in this position, hey, Brian, hey, Chris, hey, Jimmy, I don't have any money. I've used all my reserves. The last couple of years have been hard on my business. I don't have much of a savings. How can I get started in this program? Fear not, my friend, because we have options for you. So we're going to try to work with our lender A to get a cash equivalent of up to $100,000 or more. And we have so many different ways that we can do that. We have syndicated lines of credit based upon credit profiles. We have your personal loans that we can possibly get over based upon credit. We could do real estate asset lending or lines of credit. We have an innovative solar installation lending program, and we can be able to help you cash out. We even have business revenue based lending and small business administration loans. Now, please, please, please do not get stuck on $100,000 as a hard requirement, because it's not. Some clients receive less. I even have a case study that when one client received much, much less. So, but regardless of the amount, we can still continue on that roadmap. So I want you to fear not on these things. Now, you probably noticed, and I'm just going to ask this on the poll really quick, did I ever mention anything about a startup fee for the first step? And I'm going to let y'all respond. All right, a lot of you. I'm going to show the results real quick. A lot of y'all are very smart and y'all been paying attention. That's why I love to hear. I did not mention anything about a startup fee because after your fundings, that's when you pay Rios. You don't pay anything startup to get into this program. We're not charging you application fees. We're not charging you a processing fee. From every successful funding, you will pay a success fee. That's 10% to Rios Business Advisors. And sometimes the lenders themselves will charge their own success fees. You're not charging any upfront fees. Well, I hope y'all probably read that when I asked the question. So, for example, if you did get funded $100,000, you're going to pay RBA 10% of that. And for worst case scenarios only, we're going to say that you're going to pay 15% to lender A. So, yeah, at this point, you've paid out $25,000. That leaves you with $75,000 to work with. But now, think about it. You came in here with nothing. Now you actually have something that you can work with and work for. So now we can make this work for you in your favor. And so this is where we move on to the second parts that you saw in part of our program, which was developing the business credit and cash on cash return. So we got two things that we're going to do specifically. If we got that $100,000 that was funded with $75,000 remaining, we'll use $25,000 for the non-recourse cash program, $50,000 for the Age Shelf Corporation program. The cash program generates a 10x return and is a non-recourse investment. The Age Corporation is going to generate up to $500,000 in business credit. And this is what's going to take us into the second part that you see here that happens about at the half-month mark. And it's going to take us all the way to about 3.5 months and 4.5 months. So let's focus on first the non-recourse cash investment program. So when it comes to this program, we're going to generate a cash on cash return. Now, with the example $25,000 that's mentioned, Lender C is our lender that works with it. Now, Lender C is an arbitrary name. They're really just an investment program. And so it's going to protect your investment with an insurance policy. Not just one policy, but 3 specific policies that target different things, such as general liability, professional management liability, and also cyber data and any kind of theft insurance. But fear not, the money that you invest returns back to you at the program completion. Now, while it's going through that period, like I mentioned you saw on the last slide, it's going over multiple months, right? We saw from about the half-month mark to about 3.5 months. And so during this time, every beginning of the month, you're going to have an investment performance call. And it's going to show you the performance of your investment account, including the ability to make withdrawals. Now, what we've seen on average is that on about a calendar of days of 90 or more, the investment grows from 25,000 up to 250K. Can grow more, can grow less. Can be shorter, can be longer. But we're going to go on what's on the average. But remember, this is a successful funding. Any additional money that you receive is successful fundings. So you pay a success fee of 10% to Rios Business Advisors. So for instance, you got funded $250,000, you'll pay Rios 10%, which is $25K. But I want you to remember, I said you received that original $25,000 back, so it covers your RBA fee. You walk away with the net of this fund. Now, how does this work? You know, a lot of people question like, okay, well, if it works, how come other people aren't doing it? How does it work? How is it possible? And it's all made by the powers of leverage and compounding. You see, if I had $1, right, and from that $1, I made a 5% return, well, that's 5 cents. You're not going to Vegas. You're not excited. You're not buying a house in the Himalayas for that. So what we're going to use is the power of leverage. When you have leverage, leverage is like a multiplier. Imagine going into a store. For every dollar you have, it's equal to $100 worth of buying power. Well, that $1 with $100% leverage, or 100x leverage, I'm sorry, would become $100. And if you made 5% on that, well, that's $5. But what's remarkable is your $1 made $5, because that was all that existed, right? Was that $1 in your account. You didn't really have $100. That's the power of leverage. So your $1 made a $5 return. That's a 5x return. You can't beat that. But a lot of people ask, well, how is that possible to be done, right? Leverage is used by financial institutions. This is how insurance companies work. When you put money into your premium and you pay that premium every month and they deposit into the account, they're using leverage to make a return. And so they do that return generally on an annualized basis, anywhere 5 to 10%, but they're doing it on leveraged dollars. That's how they're able to pay you out when you only put in $50,000 for a $250,000 policy. A lot of people just don't know how those things work. Now, the question then becomes, well, how long does it take to make a 5 to 10% return? If you work with most financial planners, generally it's going to take them multiple months to a year because they have a long-term appreciation-focused view of the market. But there's ways where you can shrink down that time frame and do it in less time. It doesn't take a year to make a 5% return or even a 10% return. But the power of compounding gains is what helps you to be able to do this, right? And so a lot of people don't really see this compounding gains just worked in their lives because they pay for it. I'll give you an example. When you buy a house, and you buy the house for $100,000, and if you let it continue on and go on until the next 30 years making monthly payments, and I'm asked this as a poll. When you have this home that you've paid for $100,000, but you paid across 30 years, at the end of 30 years of monthly payments, did you pay $100,000? Did you pay a lot more? And as I see the answers coming in, as it shows, y'all show it pays a lot more. So this is what most people do. Most people do on an annual basis and have no idea. But what if you could have something appreciation just like this? I want to show you a simulation. If you were able to average 100% return on a daily basis, a penny would go to 2 pennies. It would go to 4 pennies, 8 pennies, 16, 32, 64, 128. After a week, that's a great growth. That's a lot of percent. From 1 penny to $1.28 is great. But if you don't touch the gains and you let them continue to grow, it goes from $1.28, $2.56, $5.12, $10.24, $20.48, $49.6, $81.92, $163.84. This is powerful, right? You started with 1 penny, you have $163. You could go buy you a nice juicy steak, you could go get you a meal, whatever you want to do. But when you start messing with the numbers and start taking out stuff, that's when it makes it worse. Because if you still let it continue, that 163, and you let it go for about another 15 days, it turns into $5 million from a penny. Now, this isn't no hocus pocus or magic. If you've ever heard people say put money into a stock index and let it sit for 30 years and you become a millionaire, it's all governed by the same principle. It's getting 10% annually that they say on average. For the next 30 years, you'll grow with a starting amount, it'll go to millions of dollars. So the only difference here is we've reduced it from an annualized basis to a daily basis and average the same return, the same if not better return. Now, this program isn't going to do 100% on a day, but it may do 5 to 10% on average per day, which allows you to see it over about 90 calendar days. It continues to grow and it's able to make returns. And that's how this works. Now we've talked about the non-recourse or cash return program. Let's talk about the Age Shelf Corporation and what that entails. And so the next question I have is, how many of y'all, and I'm going to ask this as a poll, have heard of an Age Shelf Corporation? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Okay, great. So yeah, you see now it's a bunch of no's. And so when it comes to what an Age Shelf Corporation is, an Age Shelf Corporation is a company that has merely existed by completing regulatory filings. It has to file taxes. It doesn't probably have a bank account. It has no assets. It has no credit tied to it. The only thing somebody did was every year they paid the annual registration fee. And what it's done is it's increased in age. And what age helps you to do is be able to apply for different lines of credit and get the most approvals. You see, statistically, most business over 80% of business owners are going to fail in 2 years. And more, even worse than that, across 5 years, most businesses are going to be closed, or over half. Banks know this. And so now we're going to put on the hat that we're thinking like a bank underwriter. You have all this money at your disposal, but the goal is that you have to be correct in how you deploy it. So you can't give it to somebody who's not going to repay you, like that cousin that asked you for money, who you know will never pay you back. But you got to put it into the hands of people who will help you to make payments, and they will be able to return your money back over time because they're a sound business strategist. Well, one of the things you're going to look at: do they have a website? Are they listed in the business? What IP address did they apply from? Do they work out of home or work in a business office? How long have they been in business? What's their credit like? These are all kinds of questions that underwriters go through. Underwriter is a fancy word for a person who's reviewing information to make sure that they're evaluating any kind of risk. And so what we're going to do is we're going to purchase an age shelf corporation for you. And it has a cost to it of $50,000, but it can be used to establish up to $500,000 in business credit or more. And not only that, for that $50,000, you're going to receive a personal guarantor. And this comes from Lender B, who's our facilitator for the age shelf corporations. The personal guarantor is somebody who will be able to then use their credit, which will help you to reduce your liability. See, you're not putting your credit at risk. Also, you own and control this corporation, right? You're not directly liable. Well, that's going to help you to reduce not only liability, but we can use this in turn to reduce taxes by using an age corporation. But the age corporation is going to position yourself to receive the most amount of funding. And so there's also even a passive income opportunity through Rios Business Advisors, in which you can use this to make up to 25% or more interest on your money. So pretty cool opportunity. So let's talk about how we're going to use this, right? So you have your company that exists now. Nothing changes with it. But now it becomes the owner of this age shelf corporation. We work with you. We establish these business lines of credit. But then let's say the company needs $50,000, right? And so now your age corporation makes a contract to lend that money to your company. And so now what ends up happening is that you end up having the $50,000 you need. But guess what? You're on both sides of the transaction. You're the lender and the borrower. You control the age corporation. You run the company. The age corporation just exists on paper. But by doing a loan from your age corporation to your company, what that means now is that you don't incur taxable revenue. It's a loan. Loans are not taxable revenue. And while your company can decide, hey, I'm not going to pay for 3 months, 6 months, I'm not going to pay interest, etc., once you do have the money, you repay it. So repay the money back to the age corporation. You revolve the credit line. That helps you during the times that your company doesn't going to have the income coming in, but needs to have the expenses covered. And it helps you to do it without putting yourself in a bad position. Because remember, the personal credit, this doesn't affect your personal credit because the personal guarantor is the one who guarantees this business credit. But it reduces your liability for your company not being liable for another company's debts. So it puts you in a position where you're having not only protection, reducing taxes, but you also have the resources that are needed because your age corporation becomes your financial operations. You become the bank. And so going through this process as well too, once we develop these lines of credit, there's going to be 3 parties you'll have to pay. Rios Business Advisors will get a success fee of 10%. You're going to pay the personal guarantor a one-time success fee of 10%, right? Because we also want to compensate them and make sure that they are compensated for putting their neck and their credit on the line. And the last piece you're going to pay is the funding broker, which generally charges a success fee anywhere 10 to 15%. Some places maybe 0. And so in this case, we're going to estimate that you had $50,000 paid out, $50,000 paid out, and 75. That's going to leave you $325K that's available that you can use. And so now we have this credit available for us. And so far, with everything that we've discussed so far, we're somewhere in that 3.5 month or 4.5 month mark. And so now we're going to repeat both programs again. And we're going to do the same steps over during that 3.5-month mark and also the 4.5-month mark. And so we'll repeat all the programs, right? But we have our inventory of exactly where we're at those points. $75K in debt from the initial funding. We got $250,000 available from the non-recourse fund. And we have, like as I mentioned, that $325K available in credit for the Self Corporation and $175K in debt. The repeating of the programs allows us to clear out all of the debt that we see. So all this debt is going to go bye-bye, and that's the goal. And so to do so, right, we'll just repeat it, but we'll increase the numbers on the cash return program for the non-recourse. We'll increase it to $100,000. The policy you have will continue to protect your investments. You will get the initial funds back. You'll still have the monthly performance calls. We'll see that in about average 90 calendar days, 100K turn into 1 million. And as remember, you're going to pay success fee to Rios Business Advisors for 10%. So you'll pay Rios Business Advisors 100K, getting back your original initial funds back, and they'll leave you funded with $1 million. Then we're going to repeat the same process with the Self Corporation. Spend another $50K, get you access to $500,000 in business credit. You're going to receive an additional personal guarantor. We're going to do everything that we can. And in fact, remember, we got the passive income opportunity, so we can use this towards getting passive income. You'll still follow the same cycle of paying off the fees that we mentioned before. And now we're at this point now, at the very last point that we want to see. We're going to focus on how do we deploy these assets in a way that makes the most sense. And so now, remember, at this point, right, we have still $75K in debt initially, $1.25 million in cash available, $650K in credit available, $350K in debt. But now we're going to use the cash available to pay off all the debts accrued during this process. And so now that's going to leave you with $850K of cash available, and your credit limits will go back to $1 million revolving. I mean, at this point, you got a lot that you can work with, right? But we got to make some good choices. With the right assets in hand, we're going to seek investment decisions like estate planning and wealth protection services, the passive income investment opportunities I keep mentioning, tax advisement and tax minimization, and deploying the assets for revenue. And remember, we can repeat all steps of the program, right, to produce even more resources. So maybe you want to have $5 million in cash available and $5 million in credit. Well, now we got the resources to work with. We'll make it happen and repeat the process. And so from that pretty much equals the program. Now, I know that you're probably burning with questions. There's things that you probably don't understand. I'm going to focus on a couple of questions, and feel free, write in the chat a couple of questions. I'll see if I can answer some. But I'm going to work on commonly asked questions that are asked, and I have a place where we can help to answer your questions, because I know you're probably burning with, well, how does it make sense? I know this probably didn't give you all the detail you're looking for, but we have a place to do so. And so I'm reading through the chat. See some of the questions that are asking, the ones I'm about to cover. So let me focus on these, and then we'll go from there. So it all seems too good to be true. How is it possible? Well, something about these programs that is key for you to know. All these programs are programs that have existed long before we made the roadmap. And they have particular specialties that make them effective. But I'm going to be honest with you. A lack of understanding is the root cause for anything that's too good to be true, right? If you go back to the 1800s and you tell people that we use flying planes, they would think that you were a witchcraft. You told them that we had cars that can drive themselves. That they would only be a whim, because they first ask you, what is a car? But so these are all innovations that have come up. But over time, as you begin to understand them, you understand how they work. And so we have the initial funding, right, that uses assets to get credit and funding. We have the daily opportunities and investments for daily compounding interest. And then we have the Self Corporation that's using aged corporations to be able to help exceed the underwriting requirements to get max possible funding, right? And so we're going to Q&A call. Go ahead and make sure to scan the QR code. And I'm also going to have the link also sent out to you so that you'll have it as well too, so that you can be able to use it to be able to get access to, having a call with us to help answer some of these questions. Now, the next question I have is, I do not believe I would qualify, so I'd be wasting my time. Now, a lot of people may feel this, but we've worked with clients with 400 plus credit scores, and all the way to clients who are overly qualified. We have flexibility of getting clients in the program. I mentioned a lot of things that use credit, but there are also things that use assets as well too. So now, unfortunately, because we may have to take a change of it, the roadmap that I just showed may not be your roadmap. But fear not, we'll get to the final destination as we've shown. Let us customize a roadmap that fits based upon your qualifications. And from there, we can be able to answer questions. And if you have any questions about those qualifications, schedule a Q&A call with our team, and then we can be able to walk through where you would fit in. The next question, why are other people not doing it? Why have I not heard of this program? Now, with the exception of the initial funding, which I'm sure you've heard of all those programs, the other programs in the roadmap are generally private programs that have been offered to accredited investors with much more liquidity available. So if you've had $10 million, $50 million minimum cash on hand, I'm not talking about net worth, I'm talking about actual cash, then that's generally how you've been able to take advantage of programs like these. All we've done is we structured this roadmap to help those who don't meet these requirements. So you don't have to have $10 million in cash or $20 million in cash in your bank account to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. We can do this in a way with working with people who have much, much less. Now, how do I know the debts will be repaid? Well, we structure a plan based upon the funded amount to facilitate going through our programs. Now, this may be small text for certain people depending on your screens, but I'll walk through this. Essentially, somebody gets funded $100,000 in the first phase, right? We take out the fees for Rios Business Advisors. We take out any lender fees. Now we know that we have some amount to work with, $84,759. We know that a client needs to pay $1,000 a month, so we put money away so you're not coming out of pocket for any expenses. And from that remaining working capital, we use part of it for age shelf corporations and part of it for the non-recourse investment program like I mentioned, leaving you with some excess money that you can even use for yourself. We let the programs go to work, generate a return, in which the cash investment return turns $248,050 in this case, and we let the age corporation purchase generate its credit, leaving you with $333,000 in credit at the end. But then we remember to go back and repay the original amount that was loaned, plus any kind of other charges that are needed, like the monthly charges. And we take that cash and credit, use it to pay off, and it leaves you with $469,650 in this example that you can have between cash and credit to work with, and then we repeat the process. But this is how we leveraged a loan product to generate money for you in a structured fashion while also covering the monthly payments so that you don't have to, so that we can be able to help you go successfully through this program. We have a plan in motion. The only thing that this program would not be for is for somebody who doesn't follow instructions, because we can be able to help anybody reach their goals. Now, I know people still feel like questions are answered. I can see that in the chat as well too. I'm not oblivious to it. It's a new concept for most people who are not familiar with strategies used at higher levels of financial resources. But as I mentioned, schedule a Q&A call with our team. It's the best way to get your questions answered, right? Use the QR code below or use the link below. And on that call, we'll connect the dots and the items. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a silly question. If you don't know, you don't know. But the thing is, if you don't ask, you will forever live with the pain of regret. So we'd rather you ask the question so that you know, and it will allow us to break it down and understand for you, so that you can be able to make an educated decision on how you would like to move forward. Because without knowledge, you'll sit back and look back 20 years later and realize, oh, I made a bad decision. Like how I did in 2011 when somebody mentioned the word Bitcoin, and I said there's no way there could be money that's digital. Now, Bitcoin's everywhere. Now, cryptocurrency is everywhere. Now, there's strategic reserves for cryptocurrency. And I made a decision all because I didn't take the time to ask questions in it and invest in new knowledge. So, we don't charge for the Q&A. We don't chastise you for any questions that you ask. Feel free to come one and all and schedule that Q&A call with us, right? Now, I know some people probably are wondering, have other people done this? And would I be the first guinea pig? And the answer is no, you're not going to be the first guinea pig. So I want to show you 3 different examples of clients that have gone through our program successfully that we've had. And so we have a client that started with the credit enhancement program through our next level credit partner company, boosting their credit scores to 750 plus. From that, we were able to use real estate to get the client initially funded through the methods as I mentioned. They used those funds to purchase the HO Corporation, which helped them get over hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding. And they used a portion of their money also as well, the non-recourse cash investment program, to generate a cash return of 10x. When the client initially came to us, their goal was just to be able to expand their current retail location. What they ended up doing was moving to a facility that will double the size while also being able to purchase a second and build out a brand new location. These were generally things that were not available for them. And this is a testimony from the client. It said on a call specifically testing to somebody who was a potential prospect for the program, they said, I'm 99% sure if I hadn't worked with Rios Business Advisors, I would not be in the position that I'm in now. You can't get any better than that. All right. The second one is a client that works in construction. Now, they were only initially funded $25,000. As I mentioned, that's a very low amount compared to the $100,000 I showed, in which only 15 was using the non-recourse cash program. Well, the program grew to the point that it took over all the payments, and a loan was paid off through the non-recourse cash investment program while the client still got their 10x return. So for those who fear like how I'm going to make the payments, what's going to happen once I've run out of that reserve that I showed, it's been covered by the program. And so the client reinvested funds to the non-recourse cash investment program. And because of that, they're having even more capital. The client is now investing in the SBA loan that's helping them to grow their business because they've been able to grow to 40% year over year. And they've even buying a house because they've had an increase in revenue thanks to the starting point of getting this initial loan for $25,000. And the revenue has been growing to their program. So it's not only been successful for them on the business side, but also on the personal, their lives has been enriched. But nothing is more touching than this last example that I'm going to share with you. We had a client who came to us, and their client's wife became on disability, which caused financial strain for the client. The client was going to have to start working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. But the client used their real estate equity that they had available to get initial funding. They put that funding into the non-recourse investment program, and it helped them supplement their income while generating a 10x return. And so now they were able to cover those expenses that they had, but they had their money growing for you. And so the client's success led them to referring 4 neighbors and friends. They took care and told other people about this program who all came on. They're all part of the program, which is helping them all. And not only that, the clients has been able to use the funds to invest in real estate while supporting their wife in the midst of their changes. As the client mentions, they said, if I didn't have the program, I would have definitely been working two jobs to make ends meet. They were truly thankful for the blessing this program ended up becoming for them. So to answer your questions, yes, it does work. We've had it work for multiple individuals, and you can be added to that list. Not to mention, you can also generate income from this opportunity. And so we have the ability to help you become a private lender to Rios Business Advisors, helping sponsor our clients getting into the roadmap. And so what that ends up allowing you to do is you can be able to use available funds that you have to lend directly to Rios Business Advisors and make 25% interest within your fund within 6 months. And if you want to know more, just schedule the Q&A call like I keep mentioning. That Q&A call is there for you to be able to answer any questions that you may have, especially because I know I won't be able to answer everybody's questions here on the webinar. And so we also have a referral rewards program. Like the person that I mentioned who on the last case study, as you refer people, we send you rewards. So for each one of those 4 referrals, he ended up receiving a portion of funds every time they got funded. And you don't have to sell the program, right? Invite them to come to this webinar. Invite them to come to the webinar, learn about the program, and get on a Q&A. All you do is recommend people to get to our program. And then as they get funded, you're going to receive referral rewards. That's just how it works. So it's a very simple process for you. And it's very lucrative, right? I mean, if you get people access to this over the credit lines and the cash that we've mentioned over the course of multiple months, your referral rewards can look like you make anywhere from $26,000 to $67,000 per client, and receiving even bonuses that come on a monthly basis. All you have to do is schedule a Q&A call with our team, like I mentioned, and you can learn more about it, and we can go even more in depth about how it worked for you. And so with that, a lot of people ask about what are the next steps. Now, I'll go through the ideal requirements, but remember, they're ideal. They're not hard requirements. So if we get you have over 650 credit score, right? And then you have on all 3 marriage bureaus, less than 5 inquiries, about $27,000 annual personal income for the last 2 years consistently, or if you have a business with business revenue of $10K a month for the last 3 months and at least $50,000 annual business revenue the last 2 years, that's ideal. But don't worry, if you don't reach these requirements, as I mentioned on the very first case study, we have the next level credit enrichment program that can help you even with a discounted price. Now, we make this very simple for you to start the program. We're going to send you a broker agreement and associated documents, and then you'll just send to us your driver's license, a login from MyScoreIQ, which is a credit monitoring site, and the last 2 years of personal tax returns. Now, sometimes we have things that we need, such as equity, home equity statements. We tap into home equity and address property. We might tap into 401ks, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, and we may need asset statements for that. And then even if you have a business, we're going to need things like your EIN letter, voided check, and bank letter verifying account, the last 4 months of bank statements. And if we go the SBA route, we're going to need 2 years of tax returns for business, the last 2 years and year-to-date of balance sheets and P&L statements. But just to get started, it's very simple. Just fill out the broker agreement that we're going to send to you, and then from there, allow for us to be able to request the items that are needed. We'll send you emails, and you just send it back to us, and we'll keep it very easy for you. Now, I've talked over a lot of information. I know that y'all have some questions. So what I'm going to recommend that you do is schedule the Q&A call with us, right? Scan this right here. And in fact, we'll have this webinar end and we'll have it take you directly to the Q&A page. So that way you can be able to make your appointment right away. And so if you have any other questions, let's talk to us, right? You can find more information about our program at riosbusinessfunding.com/iLevel to high level. But with that, my friends, I look forward to talking with you soon, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to talking with you on that Q&A call.